I still remember the moment I first laid eyes on the ancient records, hidden away in the depths of the alien ruins. The air was thick with the weight of untold stories, and the faint glow of my scanner illuminated the intricate carvings that adorned the walls. Each line, each symbol, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, whispering secrets of a civilization long gone. I was a xenobiologist, trained to understand the intricacies of life across the universe, yet nothing could prepare me for the revelations that awaited me here. As I deciphered the first few symbols, a chill ran down my spine. The records spoke of encounters with beings they referred to as humans, but the descriptions were starkly different from what I had come to understand about my own species. They depicted us as monstrous, unpredictable, driven by primal instincts that led to chaos and destruction. I felt a knot form in my stomach, an unsettling mix of disbelief and curiosity. How could they see us this way? Were we truly so far removed from what we believed ourselves to be? Before I go on, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story travels across the stars. The control room of my ship felt colder that day, as if the very walls were closing in on me. My hands trembled as I continued to translate the records, each word revealing a deeper layer of horror. I could feel the weight of their gaze upon me, the eyes of a civilization that had witnessed the worst of humanity. It was a mirror reflecting back the darkest corners of our existence, and I was not ready to confront it. The records detailed a first encounter, a moment frozen in time that had left an indelible mark on the alien species. They described humans as beings driven by a relentless thirst for power, willing to destroy anything that stood in their way. The words painted a picture of violence, of civilizations crumbling under the weight of our ambitions. I could hardly breathe as I read on, each revelation cutting deeper into my understanding of what it meant to be human. Somewhere in the depths of the records, I stumbled upon a passage that spoke of their last encounter with us. It was a chilling account that hinted at a catastrophic event, one that had sent ripples through the cosmos. The aliens had fled, terrified of what we had become, and I felt a wave of shame wash over me. How could we have let it come to this? How could I, as a representative of my species, stand here and read these words without feeling the weight of our collective sins? As I delved deeper into the records, I felt a strange connection to the aliens who had chronicled these events. They were not just distant observers, they were witnesses to our failures, our struggles, and our relentless pursuit of something greater. I could sense their pain, their confusion, and their fear. It mirrored my own internal conflict as I grappled with the uncomfortable truths laid bare before me. The more I read, the more I felt the walls of the control room closing in. I was no longer just a scientist. I was a witness to a cosmic tragedy that spanned across eons. The record spoke of the consequences of our actions, of how our greed and ambition had led to the downfall of civilizations far beyond our own. Each page turned was a step deeper into a void that threatened to consume me. I could hear the distant hum of the ship's engines, a reminder of my reality, but it felt so far removed from the chaos I was uncovering. I was alone in this vast expanse of space, surrounded by the echoes of a civilization that had once thrived. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of my heartbeat, each thud resonating with the weight of my discoveries. The tension in the air was palpable, and I could almost feel the presence of the beings who had once inhabited this world. Their essence lingered, a reminder of what had been lost. I was a mere intruder in their story, a fleeting moment in the grand tapestry of the universe. And yet, I felt compelled to understand, to unravel the threads of our shared history. As I pieced together the fragmented accounts, a sense of dread settled over me. The records hinted at a second encounter, one that could bring about a reckoning. The aliens were preparing, their fear palpable in every word. I could sense the urgency in their writing, a desperate plea for understanding in the face of impending doom. It was a call to action, a warning that echoed through the void of space. I closed my eyes for a moment, allowing the weight of it all to wash over me. The stars outside my ship's viewport twinkled like distant memories, each one a reminder of the countless civilizations that had come and gone. I was just one voice among many, but I felt the responsibility of my existence pressing down on me. What would I do with this knowledge? How could I possibly convey the gravity of what I had discovered? The records were not just a historical account, they were a reflection of our potential futures. I could see the path laid out before me, a choice between ignorance and enlightenment. But the truth was heavy, and I was afraid of what it would mean for humanity. If we were to confront our past, would we be prepared to face the consequences? Or would we repeat the mistakes of those who had come before us? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the task ahead. I had to warn my people, to share the knowledge I had unearthed. But how could I convey the depth of this cosmic truth? How could I make them understand the urgency of our situation? I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair, a belief that perhaps we could change, that we could rise above the darkness that had defined us for so long. As I prepared to transmit my findings back to Earth, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the precipice of something monumental. The records had opened a door to understanding, and I was about to step through it. But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and I could only hope that humanity was ready to embrace the truth. The stars outside my ship glimmered with an otherworldly light, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the potential for redemption. I was no longer just a xenobiologist. I was a messenger, a bridge between worlds. And as I initiated the transmission, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. The time for silence had passed. It was time to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. In that moment, I understood that the universe had a way of revealing its secrets, and it was up to us to listen. The records were a testament to our shared history, a reminder of the choices we had made and the consequences that had followed. As I sent my message into the void, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for humanity. Would we rise to the occasion, or would we be forever defined by our past? I glanced back at the records, the ancient words still echoing in my mind. They were a call to action, a plea for understanding. And as I gazed out at the stars, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The universe was vast and filled with wonders, but it was also a reflection of our own humanity. It was time to confront the truth, to embrace our potential, and to forge a new path among the stars. The weight of the alien records pressed heavily on my mind, each word a reminder of the darkness that lay dormant within humanity. As I sat in the dim light of my ship, the holographic images flickering before me, I felt an unsettling mix of dread and curiosity. The ancient writings spoke of humans not as the pinnacle of evolution, but as something far more monstrous, unpredictable, and dangerous. I couldn't help but wonder if the aliens had seen us as a threat long before we had even reached for the stars. Every time I revisited the records, a shiver coursed through me. The accounts were vivid, filled with descriptions of encounters that had left the aliens terrified and bewildered. I could almost hear their voices echoing in my mind, laced with fear as they recounted the chaos we had wrought upon their worlds. It was a narrative steeped in conflict and misunderstanding, a testament to the consequences of our actions that reverberated across the cosmos. I leaned forward, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through the data. The records detailed a series of encounters, each one more alarming than the last. The first contact had been marked by curiosity, but it quickly devolved into violence. The aliens had approached us with open minds, seeking knowledge and understanding, only to be met with hostility and aggression. Their words painted a picture of humanity that was difficult to reconcile with my own experiences. How could we, the bearers of art and love, also be the architects of destruction? As I pieced together the timeline, I felt my heart race. The aliens had documented our first attempts at space travel, the moment we broke free from the shackles of our planet. They had watched us rise, but instead of awe, they had felt dread. The records spoke of a great conflict that erupted when we ventured too close to their territory, an escalation that had led to catastrophic consequences. The details were haunting, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the ease with which it could be shattered. I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. Shame washed over me as I considered the actions of my species, the choices that had led us down this dark path. How could we have been so blind? The aliens had been our neighbors in the vastness of space, yet we had chosen to treat them as adversaries. It was a bitter truth that left a sour taste in my mouth, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we had squandered an opportunity for connection. But the records did not end there. As I delved deeper, I unearthed accounts of the aftermath, the devastation that followed our violent encounters. Entire civilizations had fallen, their histories erased in the wake of our aggression. The aliens had documented their attempts to reach out, to communicate, only to be met with silence or hostility. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I realized that we had not only harmed them, but had also severed our own chances in understanding the universe. What would happen if they returned? Would we be prepared to face the consequences of our past? I couldn't help but think of the implications of the records. The aliens were preparing for a second encounter, one that could either lead to redemption or to further conflict. The weight of that knowledge settled heavily on my shoulders. I was caught in a web of responsibility, tasked with conveying the truth to my people. But how could I do that? Would they even listen? As I pondered these questions, a sense of urgency gripped me. I needed to act, to warn humanity. But the fear of rejection loomed large. How could I convince them of the truth when they were so entrenched in their own narratives? The records had opened my eyes, but I feared they would only deepen the divide between us. In that moment of turmoil, I made a decision. I would not let fear silence me. I would gather the evidence, compile the records, and present them to the leaders of Earth. They needed to understand the gravity of the situation, the truth that lay hidden in the stars. The universe was vast, filled with wonders and dangers alike, and we had a choice to make. Would we rise above our past, or would we be doomed to repeat it? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the task ahead. I began to organize the records, highlighting the most crucial points, the moments that illustrated the consequences of our actions. I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair, a belief that perhaps we could change, that we could rise above the darkness that had defined us for so long. As I prepared to transmit my findings back to Earth, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the precipice of something monumental. The records had opened a door to understanding, and I was about to step through it. But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and I could only hope that humanity was ready to embrace the truth. The stars outside my ship glimmered with an otherworldly light, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the potential for redemption. I was no longer just a zoologist. I was a messenger, a bridge between worlds. And as I initiated the transmission, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. The time for silence had passed. It was time to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. In that moment, I understood that the universe had a way of revealing its secrets, and it was up to us to listen. The records were a testament to our shared history, a reminder of the choices we had made and the consequences that had followed. As I sent my message into the void, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for humanity. Would we rise to the occasion, or would we be forever defined by our past? I glanced back at the records, the ancient words still echoing in my mind. They were a call to action, a plea for understanding. And as I gazed out at the stars, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The universe was vast and filled with wonders, but it was also a reflection of our own humanity. It was time to confront the truth, to embrace our potential, and to forge a new path among the stars. The transmission flickered to life, illuminating my face with a soft blue glow. I felt my heart racing as I prepared to deliver my findings. I had spent countless hours crafting the message, ensuring that it conveyed the urgency of the situation. But as I began to speak, doubt crept in. Would they listen? Would they understand the weight of the truth I was sharing? Esteemed leaders of Earth, I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. I come to you with a message from the stars, a warning about our past and the choices that lie ahead. As I spoke, I could see the faces of my audience flickering on the screen, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I pressed on, recounting the alien records, the history of our encounters, and the consequences of our actions. I painted a picture of a universe filled with potential, but also fraught with danger. I spoke of the fear that had gripped the aliens, their attempts at communication met with hostility. I urged them to consider the implications of our past, to reflect on the darkness that lay within us. We have a choice, I implored. We can either continue down this path of destruction or strive for understanding and redemption. I implored them. We can either continue down this path of destruction or strive for understanding and redemption. As I finished my transmission, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had shared the truth, but I knew that the hardest part was yet to come. How would they respond? Would they reject my message, dismissing it as the ramblings of a xenobiologist lost in the cosmos? Or would they rise to the occasion, embracing the opportunity for growth and change? Days turned into weeks as I awaited their response, my heart heavy with uncertainty. The stars continued to shimmer outside my ship, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the potential that lay ahead. I spent my time poring over the records, searching for answers, for hope amidst the despair. But as the silence stretched on, I felt the weight of doubt settle in. Had I done enough? Had I conveyed the urgency of our situation? I was caught in a web of responsibility, haunted by the fear that I had failed to reach my people. The universe felt colder in those moments, a stark contrast to the warmth of the hope I had once felt. Then, one fateful day, a message arrived. My heart raced as I opened it, my hands trembling with anticipation. The leaders of Earth had convened, and they were ready to discuss my findings. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of anxiety. What would they say? Would they listen, or would they dismiss my warnings? As I prepared to join the conference, I felt a mix of hope and fear. This was my chance to bridge the gap, to advocate for understanding and redemption. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that lay ahead. I would not let fear silence me. I would fight for the truth, for the future of humanity. The conference room was filled with the leaders of Earth, their faces a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. I felt the weight of their gazes as I presented my findings, recounting the history of our encounters with the aliens and the consequences of our actions. I could see the tension in the room, the unspoken questions hanging in the air. But as I spoke, I noticed something shift. The skepticism began to fade, replaced by curiosity. I could see the leaders leaning in, their expressions softening as they absorbed the weight of my words. I pressed on, urging them to consider the implications of our past and the choices that lay ahead. We have the power to change, I said, my voice steady, but we must confront our past if we are to forge a new path among the stars. As I finished my presentation, I felt a sense of hope wash over me. The leaders were engaged, their expressions thoughtful as they deliberated. I had done my part, and now it was up to them to decide our fate. The discussion that followed was intense, filled with passionate debates and differing opinions. Some argued for a more aggressive stance, believing that we needed to assert our dominance in the cosmos. Others, however, echoed my sentiments, urging for understanding and diplomacy. As the hours passed, I felt the tension in the room shift. The leaders began to see the value in my message, the potential for growth and change. It was a turning point, a moment where the possibility of redemption began to take root. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the leaders reached a consensus. They would reach out to the aliens, open a dialogue, and seek to understand the truth of our past. I felt a surge of relief wash over me, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. As I left the conference room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. We were on the brink of something monumental, a chance to redefine our place in the universe. The weight of the alien records still pressed heavily on me, but now it felt like a burden I could carry. The stars outside my ship glimmered with a newfound light, a reminder of the potential that lay ahead. I was no longer just a xenobiologist. I was a part of something greater, a bridge between worlds. And as I prepared for the next steps, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The time for silence had passed. It was time to embrace the truth and forge a new path among the stars. I floated in the silence of my ship, a solitary vessel adrift in the vastness of space, the echoes of the conference room still reverberating in my mind. The weight of the alien records pressed heavily on my thoughts, each word a reminder of the darkness that lay entwined with humanity's past. I had shared our history, but now I faced the aftermath, a universe that was both vast and empty, a canvas filled with the colors of my own doubts and fears. The stars outside my viewport twinkled with an indifferent brilliance, each one a distant world, a silent witness to the unfolding drama of existence. I had hoped for understanding, for a bridge to form between our species and the aliens who had once feared us. Yet as I gazed into the depths of space, I felt the cold grip of isolation. The silence was deafening, a reminder of how alone I truly was in my quest for redemption. I had become a vessel of truth, a bearer of burdens too heavy for one soul to carry. The records painted a picture of humanity that was monstrous, unpredictable, an image I struggled to reconcile with my own identity. I was a xenobiologist, trained to understand the complexities of life across the cosmos, yet here I was, grappling with the monstrosity of my own kind. What did it mean to be human? Was I merely a reflection of our species' darkest impulses, or could I transcend that legacy? Days turned into weeks as I navigated the emptiness, pondering the implications of our impending encounter with the aliens. I had reached out to others, seeking allies among those who understood the stakes. We gathered in the dimly lit conference rooms of the Earth Alliance, voices raised in passionate debate, each one echoing my own internal conflict. Some spoke of dominance, of asserting our place in the cosmos, while others, like me, championed understanding and reconciliation. The discussions were fraught with tension, a microcosm of the larger battle that lay ahead. I could see the lines etched on the faces of my colleagues, the worry mingling with resolve. We were on the precipice of a new era, but the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. I felt the weight of my responsibility grow heavier, the knowledge of our past actions looming like a specter over our future. In the quiet moments, I would retreat to the observation deck, staring out into the infinite expanse. I thought of the alien records, the stories they told of encounters that had gone awry, of misunderstandings that had led to destruction. The fear that had gripped the alien civilizations was palpable, a reflection of humanity's own capacity for violence. I could almost hear their voices, echoing through time, pleading for understanding, for a chance at coexistence. One evening, as the ship drifted through a field of stars, I received a transmission from the Earth Alliance. It was a message from the leaders, a summons to return to Earth for a crucial meeting. The urgency in their tone sent a shiver down my spine. Had they reached a decision? Were we truly ready to face the consequences of our past? As I prepared for the journey back, I felt a surge of determination. This was my chance to advocate for a new path, to stand as a bridge between worlds. I had spent so long in silence, grappling with the weight of knowledge, but now I had to speak. The truth was a powerful force, and I would wield it, not as a weapon, but as a means of healing. Upon my arrival, the atmosphere was electric. The conference room buzzed with anticipation. The leaders of Earth gathered in a semicircle, their expressions a mixture of hope and apprehension. I took my place at the front, my heart pounding in my chest. I could see the faces of those who had once been skeptical, now filled with a cautious optimism. As I began to speak, the weight of the alien records felt lighter, transformed into a message of potential. "We stand at a crossroads," I said, my voice steady. "Our past is a tapestry woven with both light and darkness. The records reveal not only the mistakes we've made, but also the possibility for redemption. We can choose to learn from our history, to extend a hand rather than a fist. The room was silent, the leaders hanging on my words. I could see the flicker of understanding dawning in their eyes, the realization that we had the power to change our narrative. I pressed on, recounting the tales of the aliens, their fear and their hopes, urging my colleagues to recognize the shared threads of existence that connected us all. But even as I spoke, doubt lingered in my mind. Would we truly embrace this opportunity, or would the shadows of our past pull us back into the abyss? The question gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. As the discussion unfolded, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The leaders began to engage, their voices rising in passionate debate. Some argued for a more aggressive stance, believing that we needed to assert our dominance in the cosmos. Others echoed my sentiments, urging for understanding and diplomacy. It was a clash of ideologies, a reflection of the larger battle that lay ahead. I listened intently, my heart racing as the tension mounted. The stakes were high, and I could feel the weight of history pressing down on us. We were not just fighting for our future, we were fighting for the very essence of what it meant to be human. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the leaders reached a consensus. They would reach out to the aliens, open a dialogue, and seek to understand the truth of our past. I felt a surge of relief wash over me, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. We had chosen the path of understanding, a chance to redefine our place in the universe. As I left the conference room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. The time for silence had passed. We were on the brink of something monumental, a chance to forge a new path among the stars. The weight of the alien records still pressed heavily on me, but now it felt like a burden I could carry. The stars outside my ship glimmered with a newfound light, a reminder of the potential that lay ahead. I was no longer just a xenobiologist. I was a part of something greater, a bridge between worlds. And as I prepared for the next steps, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The days that followed were filled with preparations for the encounter. We established communication protocols, ensuring that our message would be clear and respectful. I worked alongside linguists and diplomats, crafting a narrative that would honor the complexities of both our species. It was a delicate balance, and I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. As the appointed day approached, I found myself consumed by a mixture of excitement and dread. The alien ships were en route, their silhouettes looming on the horizon of our solar system. I stood on the observation deck, watching as they drew closer, each one a reminder of the stakes involved. Would they come in peace, or would the shadows of our past cloud the possibility of understanding? On the day of the encounter, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. I stood alongside the leaders of Earth, our hearts racing in unison as we awaited the arrival of the alien delegation. The moment felt monumental, a turning point in the history of our species. As the alien ships docked, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. The doors opened, revealing the alien representatives, beings unlike any I had ever encountered. Their forms shimmered with an otherworldly glow, their features both beautiful and unsettling. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, a mixture of awe and trepidation. We exchanged greetings, our words carefully chosen, imbued with the weight of our shared histories. The atmosphere was tense, filled with unspoken questions and lingering doubts. I could see the flicker of recognition in their eyes, a reflection of the fears and hopes that had shaped our respective civilizations. As the discussions unfolded, I felt the barriers between us begin to dissolve. We shared stories, our histories intertwining in a tapestry of understanding. The aliens spoke of their own struggles, their own fears, and I could see the parallels between our experiences. It was a moment of connection, a glimpse into the shared humanity that transcended the boundaries of our species. But as the dialogue deepened, the shadows of our past resurfaced. The aliens recounted their encounters with humans, their memories tinged with fear and mistrust. I listened intently, my heart heavy with the weight of their words. It was a reminder of the darkness that lay entwined with our legacy, a truth we could no longer ignore. Yet, amidst the tension, I felt a flicker of hope. We were not defined by our past. We had the power to shape our future. As I stood before the alien representatives, I knew that this was our moment to choose a different path. I spoke of our desire for understanding, for reconciliation, urging them to see the potential for growth that lay within both our species. The discussions continued late into the night, the atmosphere shifting from tension to tentative hope. We forged agreements, establishing protocols for future communication and collaboration. It was a fragile beginning, but it was a beginning nonetheless. We had chosen to embrace the truth of our past, to confront the shadows that had haunted us for so long. As the encounter drew to a close, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had taken the first steps toward healing, toward a future defined not by fear, but by understanding. I looked out at the stars, their brilliance a reminder of the possibilities that lay ahead. In the days that followed, I reflected on our journey, on the lessons we had learned. The alien records had revealed not only the darkness of our past, but also the potential for redemption. We were no longer defined by our mistakes. We were defined by our choices. As I prepared to return to Earth, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The universe was vast and mysterious, but now I understood that we were not alone. We had allies among the stars, and together we could forge a new path. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was a journey worth taking. I had learned that the truth, while painful, was a powerful force for change. And as I looked out into the cosmos, I felt a sense of hope, a belief that the universe always finds a way to reveal the truth, to guide us toward understanding. If we could confront our past, embrace our humanity, and reach out to others, the potential for growth was limitless. The stars shimmered with promise, and I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Together, we would navigate the complexities of existence, forging connections that transcended the boundaries of our species. As I set my course for home, I knew that my journey was far from over. The echoes of our encounter would resonate through time, a reminder of the choices we had made. And I would carry that truth with me, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. The universe was vast, but it was also filled with possibilities. And as I traveled among the stars, I felt a sense of belonging, a connection to something greater than myself. Together, we would continue to explore the mysteries of existence, seeking understanding in a cosmos that was both beautiful and terrifying. In the silence of space, I found my voice, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And as I embraced the truth of our shared existence, I knew that we were just beginning to uncover the depths of our potential. The stars awaited, and I was ready to answer their call.